think it is now time to turn the floor over to Stephen Mosley to close us out. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. What a fantastic panel. What a wonderful moderator. Thank you very much, Ambassador Cousins. Absolutely outstanding. You brought years of hard work on this to the fore and put it before us and brought people out with their most personal comments, I think, on what can be done now at this point. I've always been, I suppose, an optimist about the outcomes of development, and I've been at this for about 45 years. There's a few people in this room. Others are quite a bit younger, and I'm so pleased to hear the optimism I hear when I talk with young people. This is a very complex agenda. And I suppose a year and a half ago, there was a lot of criticism about whether we could be optimistic, A, that there would be an agenda, and B, would it be accomplishable? What you demonstrated today, and this conversation demonstrated, is that it is possible to talk about across sectors, to be multi-sectoral, to get out of our silos, to begin to recognize that we have to go beyond not just multi-sectoral, where sometimes health and education and nutrition interface, but in fact across economic issue boundaries, with social boundaries, with business boundaries, with equity boundaries, with issues of peace and transparency. Those are really difficult issues. If 196 nations can actually agree on an agenda, I'm very optimistic those institutions, many of whom are represented here, can be the models, as you demonstrated today, to help educate many other institutions, local government, county government, city officials, other NGOs that are only domestic, international CSOs that are only international. You, by example, represent how a conversation can occur, and that's our job ahead. It's a very challenging job. The MDGs had 4 or 5 years to sort of catch up with the announcement of the agenda, and they did it very well finally, and it began to take off. We're going to have to hit the road running faster. That's what UNA, NCA, that's what UNA, USA, that's what the United Nations Foundation and the BWC are committed to. They're committed to try to bring a knowledge about this terribly complex agenda home to people who are in decision-making positions and with the partners who have a chance to implement it. You also demonstrated through your own work, there are institutions that cross that terribly huge divide between domestic work and international. There are not that many. When we looked around to put together a panel, we found there are relatively limited numbers of institutions with the depth, experience, and the energy and the interest to want to really address universality. It's almost a word that we don't dare mention because of some of the blowback politically. But you did it so eloquently, I'm more and more optimistic we can have that conversation, even in this city. And I'm sure that's what our challenge will be ahead in terms of resources. But it's not just resources from the federal government. That point was made very clear. It's a matter of partnerships, new kinds of partnerships. And you demonstrated so well how you converse with one another about the kinds of partnerships you have and about the kinds of institutions. We all wish that corporations were like Tom's, to be able to perceive their purpose and value in giving as well as making money. And you do that so well. We're going to make you the poster child of one of the outcomes of this conversation. So I just want to say that we look forward as a UN-related institution, which though is about local action. That's local here in the greater Washington area, the Virginia, Maryland, and DC, but we do it in concert with our friends and relations of a much larger family, the USA, across the country, the United Nations Foundation, which works collaboratively at the UN, and we do it with members, thousands and thousands of members, citizens, who actually believe this, but also believe that their job, their role in working on these issues is to help educate and bring others into the fold. So I'm very much hopeful that we'll see you further, that we'll work with you further, that we will expand this family to be successful. I'd like to see us in 2 years be able, before we have a 4-year review of our progress, to ask ourselves, have we crossed that divide? Have we made the bridges? Are we making them successfully? And if not, how are we going to change our institutions even further? But you are examples of the kind of institutional change that I'm confident that we can see in many, many other places to come. We want to give you certificates, official certificates of your participation. Paula Boland will hand them out, would you please? Paula is our executive director and deserves many thanks, along with her team, Kristen Hecht, Alexis Valdovinos, Don Bliss, of course, our president, opened this. And thank them, because a lot of the behind-the-scenes work that brought us all together wouldn't have happened but for their work. And I'd also like to thank the other SDG task force members besides Ed and me, who were mentioned, but Kim Weichel and Karen Mulhauser and Bob Berg and the other members of the task force, Cassara Davidson, Dick Rowson, Kevin Kleber, and David Scotton, are all working together as a team to make this happen. There are 6 more events coming up in the next 4 weeks that touch on this and touch on the issues of peace building, particularly, and on transparency, Goal 16. That's an exciting event at the USIP, and a series of other things you can read about on our website. So thank you, audience. Thank you, participants, for being here, for being such a great participant group, and look forward to seeing you at many of these activities and for your advocacy and your partnership in the months ahead. Thank you very, very much.